I thank my good friend for yielding, and I want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for their support of this important bipartisan legislation, and especially the lead Democratic co-sponsor, Representative Jim Himes from Connecticut. The Federal Savings Association Charter Flexibility Act is a common-sense reform bill that will help to ensure that community banks, many of which have history stretching back for generations, can continue to serve the needs of Main Street businesses and families. Specifically, this bill focuses on Federal Savings Associations, also known as thrifts. These institutions are similar to national banks in the sense that they are both chartered and regulated by the Office of Control of the Currency and the FDIC, but these banks are constrained in their ability to pursue certain lines of business under the Home Owners Loan Act, also known as HOLA. Specifically, HOLA subjects federal thrifts to commercial lending limits. Under what's known as the Qualified Thrift Lender Test, at least 65% of a federal thrift's portfolio assets must comprise certain mortgage and consumer-related assets. These institutions are also constrained in their ability to hold commercial loans, paper, or corporate debt. In contrast, national banks enjoy the ability to engage in a much wider range of lending activities. These restrictions originally made sense because thrifts also enjoyed advantages not afforded to national banks. But changes in law have eliminated or curtailed many of those benefits. Some thrifts have expressed frustration that these restrictions prevent them from being able to meet the changing needs of their local communities. Unfortunately, thrifts have not been immune to the industry-wide trend of consolidations and closures that has accelerated over the last decade. The Federal Savings Association Charter Flexibility Act provides these banks with additional flexibility to adjust to changing times and continue to serve their communities despite these persistent headwinds. Under current law, the only option available to Federal Savings Associations is a costly and complicated conversion to a national bank charter. This is a particularly burdensome process for mutually chartered federal thrifts, since it requires they first convert to stock form before converting their charter. The Federal Savings Association Charter Flexibility Act provides another, less disruptive option. Under my bill, federal thrifts will have the ability to pursue a path that will allow them to operate with the same rights and duties as a national bank. But these banks will not have to go through the costly and cumbersome process of converting to stock form and then rechartering. Instead, the bill sets up a simple 60-day election process that will allow these institutions to become covered savings associations. It will also require the OCC, which has been supportive of this legislation and has responsibility for regulating federal savings associations and national banks, to establish an orderly and streamlined transition process. This bill also includes important safeguards to prevent potential fire sales of assets and subsidiaries during the transition process, and it protects the OCC's ability to prevent firms from abusing the new structure. Altogether, this effort will help to ensure that time-tested community financial institutions will continue to be able to serve their customers for years to come. The Federal Savings Association Charter Flexibility Act has the support of the American Bankers Association and the Independent Community Bankers of America. It is also bipartisan, and it passed the Financial Services Committee with a 55-0 vote. Similar language has been included in the bipartisan Senate Banking Committee package also. In short, this bill represents the sort of reasonable, common sense across-the-aisle reform that our constituents want to see. I want to briefly share some comments from the Pennsylvania Bankers Association, which represents a wide range of banks in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. In their letter of support for this bill, they wrote, quote, "This legislation represents sound, sensible regulatory relief." They also added that, quote, "Federal savings associations are known for being responsive to their community's needs, and this legislation will help them to expand and continue to do so." I ask that my colleagues support H.R. 1426, the Federal Savings Association Charter Flexibility Act, and I yield the balance of my time.